So we return to our wonderful collection today because we are taking a look at the second book in our series, A Practical Guide to Living Inside the House. So, first things first, the artwork on the front of this is phenomenal. I continue to go on and on and on about the artwork in this game, but how can I not? Have you seen this artwork? Not 100% sure who these characters are. They could be anybody. I kind of like the fact that they're looking at a picture of their own house. Whether they are aware of that's what they're looking at, because obviously when something is really large, the perspective may be different. So, I would imagine that they know what they're looking at, but I don't know. It's just a fun thought experiment. This candle has obviously been used quite a lot. In the 90s, there was this craze of burning candle after candle after candle and just making artwork of the drippings. I don't know, just what comes to mind. Perhaps you've repeatedly puzzled over why the army from the realm is called Imperial. Or how did Valencia come to be named so peculiarly? And you've certainly wondered about how the whirlpool under the Great Faucet and Tuba Dam works to receive packages from every room in the house. Or how a teapot could have made its way from a palace in Fairyview, and why does Pennyworth Brigade only have a fake penny? And so on, and so forth. A Practical Guide to Living Inside the House is an expansion for household consisting of many stories, fun facts, anecdotes, and close-up looks. In this book you will find additional information on every nation in the house, new historical characters, new equipment, 3 new rooms, the porch, the kitchen, and the smaller bedroom, 10 mysteries for you to uncover, 10 new contracts, 3 new opponents, including the terrible Scorpion, 6 playable characters, 5 new vocations, 1 new animal companion, the Snail, and 8 maps for the main cities of the household. So, first things first. As a game master, I would be making sure that I was to read through all of this first so that I could decide what I was comfortable with allowing my players to look at. From a player's perspective, obviously, and I know I'm stating the obvious here, if you have already read this before going into your game, you need to try and make sure to remember that not everything you've read in this is going to be stuff that your character knows. Don't be that guy or that girl. Just try to have fun with everybody. Don't ruin the fun for everybody else. In the case of the mysteries in here, I would be trying to avoid reading those if you're the player. I haven't read the mysteries. I don't know what they state, but if you know what these are, it's going to ruin the fun for you. So as a player, I would not be reading these mysteries. Just my first observations. Let's get and have a look. First things first, we continue with this wonderful wallpaper. At least that's what I'm assuming that this is supposed to be. It kind of makes sense that that's what it would be. If you know the world, you're never a foreigner. I actually like that. My dearest reader, so obviously this is our foreworld. Talking here about the mysteries. In this guide, you will find some intriguing anecdotes that I have aptly named mysteries. These are tales so unbelievable and unfounded that not even I was able to establish whether they were true stories or simple exaggerations of some imaginative littling. Many of these tales also come associated with information such as fearsome opponents or legendary contracts. I call these contracts legendary not because they are rare or mysterious, but rather because until further discoveries, they only exist as part of household folklore, and there is no proof of their credibility. I will leave all further considerations to you. As always, I recommend that you leave behind all preconceived doubts, but also that you never believe everything that you hear. So that's an interesting anecdote, given my first thoughts on the mysteries, because some of these appear to be folklore. I would still be very careful in reading these, though. Again, I would be getting the game master of whoever it is that's running your game. I would be getting them to read through this first and then help determine whether they are comfortable with you reading these sorts of things. Because these may be introduced to you by characters and so forth. Or maybe they're things that you have to discover. So we start off with the porch and a gorgeous piece of artwork. Like, just truly stunning. I love this. I just realized White Step. It's literally named after the color of the stone that it's built from. That I really like. Here we have one of our little anecdotes here. Lovely artwork once again. I'm not 100% sure what that is that she's leaning on. It kind of looks like the medallions that you used to be able to get stamped at tourist locations. Like you would present them with a coin and like you would literally stamp them with this metal device. I don't know if you can still get them. They were around when I was young. And we're straight into one of the world's... Oh! Okay, so we start off with a look at the ground floor of the house. Seems to be concentrating on this side. I assume that's why this is the only area that's coloured. But we already see over here, there's our Christmas tree that has fallen down that we saw in the previous book. Appears to be a couch. At least I assume that's a couch. It could be some cushions on the floor. Hard to tell what these are. Staircase going upstairs. The short hallway and the long hallway. We have our kitchen with a literal glass cabinet that's called Glassberg. These were legitimately a thing that, like, the fancy glassware would always go in these. They don't really exist as much anymore because I guess, like, glassware is glassware. I mean, I'm sure there are still houses that have the fancy stuff that only comes out for special occasions, but most people like plates are plates. There appears to be an actual village built on top of the kitchen table. And Fairy View is literally a window to the outside of the house. That's cool. Mount Guignol and Waxy Swale. I'm guessing this is just a really messy part of the house that was never cleaned up. Rule is here at the bottom of the stairwell. I can't quite tell what Rule is. Looks like it has a knife sticking out of it, though. Yep. Straight into realm politics. Another one. So this appears to be where these anecdotes are. And these appear to be historical figures. One of which has been covered over. There's obviously a story here that could be fun to explore. Because obviously, I don't know if that's Victor von Glassberg or not. I don't know. These just... It's kind of hard to tell. Oh, hang on. The Litlings of the Imperial Lineage. Doesn't really... So, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it doesn't list whoever that is. Fey Nobility. This character we've seen a couple of times in the previous book with her bumblebee companion. I wonder if this is the gentleman that was covered over. Because I'm sorry, this guy looks like a vampire. And he's a vampire that has mosquito pets. I really love this. And actually, why is there not giant mosquitoes associated with vampires? Why is it bats? I mean, bats are real and you don't get giant mosquitoes, but seriously, a giant mosquito is a terrifying thought. You tell me that that isn't something that would make sense in an actual vampire lore. Some giant monstrosity mosquito. Anyway, this card looks cool. The Legend of Bitter Blood. So I suspect that my theory on vampiric is true. Well, he's also called Count over here. The Count's End. So it looks like he is, in theory, no longer with us. Bitter Blood. So this is one of our legendary contracts. Oh, and an actual look at the army. Nice. So we've got lots of reds and greens and kind of warm colours. Because it's like a warm green and it's almost like a custardy golden yellow. Continuing on. The golden backs. I do love this. This is really, really pretty. Only thing I would... This reminds me of... when I was young, there was a cartoon called Thumbelina. It was like an animated movie. And I may be misremembering this, but I kind of remember something about wings being like this. And don't get me wrong, this makes no sense because there's no way that wings would still hold flight when you had all of that strapped to them. But I don't care. It just looks cool. And I'm sorry. The sharpened scissors as swords is just amazing. Sentries, Royal Grenemy. I'm going to guess that this guy is related to the vampire in some way. It just kind of feels that way. Because, you know, blood red banner. The Golden Circle. The House of Cards. Life in the Realm. So yeah, this is just like, this is a deep dive into the actual culture of the realm, which is nice. Again, artwork is nothing short of phenomenal. Actual clothing. Now this is cool. It's interesting that... Oh, hang on. So they've included the wings, which obviously don't belong to the clothing. They obviously belong to the Fae. But it's because, if you look closely, there's actually slits in the backs of these jackets. So they're showing you how the clothing actually works. Though, given that some people struggle to get their arms into a jacket, I would wonder how somebody would get their wings into those little slits. Institutions. So yeah, there's a lot of information in here that's going to be very helpful. Obviously, I'm not reading this, I'm just skimming through this, but my first impression would be, at least so far, that if you're coming from the realm, you would probably know a lot of this. Perhaps it depends on what level you are. Like, if you're lower class, then maybe you don't know stuff about the higher class. I don't know. I would still be getting your GM to read through this first, though. The Hearth is the other side of the ground floor. So here we are. The Yule Forest. So it's not a Christmas tree, it's a Yule tree, which, if you don't know, is what was taken over by Christmas. Chesterfield, I believe, is actually a type of couch. And I'm guessing it's this type of couch. I could be wrong on that. But Chesterfield and couch goes together in my head, and I'm pretty sure that's why. I was obviously wrong about this, though. That's just some cushions or something. It's not labelled either. Bookshire. So this is very clearly a bookshelf or a desk of some kind. It kind of looks more like a desk to me. But it could be either. Being Bookshire, I would imagine that this is a bookshelf. It just makes more sense. Up here, so the things that I couldn't identify earlier, clearly this was a mantelpiece. Cinder Hall is very clearly a fireplace. I assume that Walford is the hearth inside of that. Either that or this is literally a city inside the wall. So this might be a like a mouse hole, like in the cartoons, perhaps. And that's it, pretty much. Doorkeep. Yep, that's it. Starting the same way with the politics. But then we're going into like mantelpiece ornaments for the historical aspect as opposed to the artwork that we saw in the other one. Those who remained. Armed forces. So yeah, layout is going to be very similar between all of them. Interestingly, all of these colours tend to be very cold. I guess if they're from the hearth, then maybe they're getting dirty with like coal and stuff, so they're choosing colours that would go with that really well. Not that any of these guys look dirty and covered in coal, but it's just a thought. Military service with that face. I'm guessing that it's not voluntary. I love this. That's gorgeous. Fire break. The Church of Safekeeping with a key. Makes sense. Parable of the Slovenly Son. The Cinder Order. Okay, so this is definitely something that's going to be within the actual fireplace. You don't call yourself the Cinder Order unless that's where you're coming from or that's where you're protecting. A Cold Heart. So this is a household mystery. This is one of the things that I was saying that I would not recommend you reading as a player unless your GM allows it. Institutions. So this is information that in theory you should all know. Deadmau5 Den is clearly a tavern of some kind, so that you definitely would know. Whether you would know all of the information regarding here is another question. The Blue Flames, just really, really cool. The Knights of the Carpet. Hunters and Handlers, the Union. French Revolution, anybody? That's what it reminds me of, at least. This rather tall gentleman appears to have sharpened a letter opener. It feels like a letter opener. I could be wrong. The City in Between. Okay, so I'm guessing this is Walford, and by the look of it, I was right. It's a mouse hole, because that's definitely a city that's inside the walls. Free Dominions. So we're starting to head upstairs now. So this is the upper floor. So we have Tuba Dam, which appears to be a sink by the look of it. The Great Bowl. So I suspect that, so we've got the Great Bowl here and Tuba Dam is at the top of it, is my theory. Interesting design on the sink though. I guess because in modern day, the wide bit would be going this way, not lengthways, because that's the spout there. And in a modern sink, generally, these tend to be wider than they are longer. So that's changed over time, I guess. Either that or I'm just saying something that's common about Australian ones and they're not the same overseas. Bedingham, I love the fact that there's apparently a city. I'm guessing underneath the bed. It would make more sense than it being on top of the bed. Clockminster is literally a grandfather clock. And I want to say Roosevelt for what looks like a makeup cabinet. And we have the smaller bedroom. There's no locations listed there. There is top bridge at the top of the stairs, though. It's literally the top bridge of the staircase. Straight into the politics again. So yes, we are continuing the layout. Interestingly, we don't have historical figures here as such. We appear to have a council of some kind. I mean, there's obviously more information here, but this could be like just representative, like everything else was. Armed forces of the Free Dominions. We have red coats and a blue coat for some reason. But like this is literally red coats. I like this guy. He doesn't seem to like himself very much. I want to say Scrooge with the top hat and the cane. That's what it reminds me of. Porcelain Army, the Freers, Bathlantis. So this is a household mystery. Again, my advice would be to let your GM read this first. I'm guessing by the sound of this, because it's called Bathlantis, that this is literally a lost city within the bathtub. Maybe nobody's sure if it's still there or not. Institutions and freedoms. We've got a University of the Bedside, the Free University of Clockminster. Very posh-looking people over here. Dens in the Free Dominions. And clearly a place you want to be by the look of that mushroom. This gentleman's rather sure of himself. Art and theatre. Fencing in the Free Dominions. Thimble Tailor Shot. The Two Keys Gentlemen Club. Here's another one of our mysteries. Life in the Free Dominions. A lot of this is going to be very interesting reading, I feel. So this is definitely a more nobility type faction by the sound of this, because all of this is very, very fancy. I mean, you don't get dresses made out of literal roses if it's not posh. Also, apparently this person's wearing a lolly wrapper. The Flamii? The Flamai? The Flamai? I don't know. Tell me in the comments how I should be saying that. Goes Legacy. This is a card set from Magic the Gathering, I think. No, I'm thinking of Urza's Legacy. Never mind. Through the Looking Glass. And everything is upside down. Smaller bedroom, the trunk. Got a dollhouse here. So the smaller bedroom is clearly the child's bedroom. Dolls and gangs. Interesting. So the dollhouse is quite literal. The Little Master. The Horde. So I think this is the basement. Yep, so this is the basement. We have a sawdust desert outside of the furnace. There's no way that's a coincidence. Utu Desawa? The furnace is literally just called the furnace. Interesting, like, we don't get furnaces in Australia. I guess we just don't need them. But, I mean, we have heaters, but none of them are furnaces. We don't do this. We also don't have basements, so, yeah. I kind of want basements. Basements are cool. Falacia, this is named at the back of the book. Umbral. Al-Sahir appears to be, I'm guessing this is like a desk of some kind. Hard to tell. Deep down is literally a bucket. Starting with the politics again. So we do get Slugan nobility. The Skull Riders appears to be a gang of some kind. Skull Rider hierarchy. The Spider cult. Courtiers and witches. Life in the Horde. Lovely looking clothing. Kind of Eastern European type look. Well, old school Eastern European type look. Or Middle East, I suppose. I don't know. It's just like, it's very much, I mean, this is clearly not London inspired. It's very much further east inspired. Rodamonte's jacket. The Forgotten One. Another one of our mysteries. Ooh. Okay, so here's our scorpion. Look at the size. So we don't get giant scorpions like this in Australia. Like, we literally have like tiny little scorpions. Whether they appear in our deserts, I don't really know. But generally speaking, we don't have these. Once again, like the other giant monsters that we were looking at in the previous book. They appear in two different parts, so the pincers are something to face in and of themselves, even before you get to the main scorpion. I kind of suspect that this would be more a matter of surviving rather than defeating. And here we go into the armed forces again. Interesting kind of very warm yellows and oranges and reds. Yuck. Don't like wasps. Yuck. Institutions. The Kashab Rovers. Assassins, but more importantly, here's another example of something from the real world being used as a weapon. So very clearly, so that's a nail. And the nail was holding whatever this was onto a wall. So this was originally a decorative item that has been broken off to become a mace. That I really like. I also really like this. That's gorgeous. I don't know what this is supposed to be. I mean, this is not man-made. And it makes no sense. I mean, it just looks cool, I guess, but like nobody's created this. Because nobody is bolting bolts through bolts. It doesn't matter. I mean, it looks cool, and that's what matters. The Spider Covenant is another one of our mysteries. The Swarm of Spiders. And here we are into our appendixes. New options. So I imagine... Yep, so this is definitely something that will be okay for the players. These are our 5 new vocations. We have the Warrior Soldier. We have the Adept in Scholar. We have the Blue Flame in Hunter. The Bandit in Criminal. And Med J under Duelist. And we've got our Snail Companion here as well. And then we get new characters. These are quite literally pre-built characters. So if you just want to start a game and you don't want to have to go through creating a character yet, maybe it's just a one-shot, you want to just play something simple and get an idea for how the game plays, then everybody kind of picks their favourite character and you just go for it. I like this guy. Household Atlas. Oh, please tell me this is literally an atlas. All right, so we start with the Astravia highlight, which is kind of, I'm guessing this is kind of like the nobility type area. Kind of a look of what the city looks like. The next page is the Astravia low light, which kind of looks more simple. It's either that or this is zoomed out and this is zoomed in. But I think this is just 2 areas of Astravia. Walford. So, yes, this is kind of like a mouse hole going into the wall. And then you've got, like, literally, this is just got plumbing over here. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. This might actually be part of the fireplace. No. But then again, I mean, this is literally, that's the mantelpiece. Interesting. I'll have to do some more reading on that. Down here we have Chesterfield, which is the couch area. The border on this is the same. So I don't think this is actually a description or a describer of what's around it. This is just a border. So I think we're okay there. I think this is inside the wall. Beddingham, by the look of that, I would say that I was right and that this is under the bed because they are definitely the sheets that's been made into a gate. There's nothing else really on this that kind of gives anything away. I like the Christmas lights. That's kind of fun. Tuba Dam. So here again is our sink and the odd layout. So in Australia, this is what I was trying to describe earlier. In Australia, at least, this sink would be facing this way as opposed to going that way. I'm guessing that this has just been left on forever. Hence the whirlpool. Yeah. Interesting. So the main parts of the city is all around the porcelain. And then you have the bay. Elsa here. Oh, it wasn't a table. It's a table saw. Oh, that's cool. Again, I just love this idea of everyday objects becoming very important locations. That is cool. Valacia. It's kind of hard to tell what this is. It looks like it's on top of a rug. That definitely looks like a rug to me. But then again, that's... Oh, no, sorry. It's a puddle. This is a pool of water inside the basement. And there we are. So, yeah, my initial first opinion on this is a book that I would let your game master read first before you look at it. If you are a player that has bought all of this for yourself and you're already reading these things, the only reminder I would have is the obvious one, which is that if there's information in this that you shouldn't know as a player, don't know it. Don't ruin your own fun. I would try to avoid reading those mysteries unless your game master tells you otherwise, because you could be ruining puzzles that you're trying to find out. I don't know if these mysteries have the solutions in them. The anecdotes clearly don't. But if in the world they are not meant to be known until they're told to you, then don't ruin that part of the fun, would be what I would be saying. But yeah, my impression of this is that you want to be giving your game master access to this first, and then only reading the sections that your game master is okay with you reading. That would be my thoughts. You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more games.